off. And a lot of the talk at the moment, and you'll see a lot of advertisement, and especially on social media, is how people should grow their like credit score. Would you give any suggestions out there for how people should go about that, or what they should be careful of when they're doing this? What would be some of your suggestions, if that's okay to ask?
Yeah, sure. So, I fall somewhere are you familiar with Dave Ramsey at all? A lot of people listen to Dave Ramsey. He's the planner to the average American. He speaks to millions of people. He has a very popular podcast. And I would say 95% of what he says, I do agree with. When you do speak with somebody one-on-one,
I'd really like to hear about the 5%.
So I'm happy to tell you about the 5%. I mean, he is completely against any use of credit cards at all. And he is also against the need for a credit score. His feeling is that that nobody should ever take out a credit card, that there is no use for a credit score, that when you take out a mortgage on a home, there are one or two companies that will do it based on your income, and they're not looking to see how much money you've borrowed and what percentage you're paying. And again, when you're speaking to millions of people at a time, that's a fair, it's a fair statement. He can't discern, am I speaking to somebody who has $100,000 in debt, or am I speaking to somebody who's super responsible and knows that he doesn't know that. He's not speaking to one at a time. He's speaking to a larger group. When we speak to one at a time, if somebody comes to me and says, my husband and I have $30,000 in credit card debt, but we're thinking we should take out a home equity line to pay that off because this will give us a little bit more money available to pay for camp. That frightens me. And that's not a good idea. Whereas if I've got somebody who says, my husband and I have some money in the bank, we're both working, we're looking to buy a house in the next 3 years, what do you recommend? I do recommend that people have a credit card. I don't recommend that they ever carry a balance, but I do recommend that they use that card to pay for things that they're paying off monthly. If it gets to a point where they're spending more on the card than they would, in cash or that they should be spending, we can have a conversation about it. But I do believe in the need for a credit score for most people. So that would be in the 5% of things. I also do believe in higher education. And so in the right situation, I know Dave Ramsey would like everybody to get scholarships for all of their, for all of their college and grad school needs, but it's not always realistic. And would I tell somebody, no, don't become a lawyer, or don't become a doctor, or don't become a PA? Probably not. I would probably just have them go in knowing, is this something I love? Is this something I'm committed to? And if so, how am I going to get rid of this debt as quickly as possible once I'm working? So these are some of the thoughts, but that's the mindset.
And to someone who's just starting out, they've just finished college, how would you suggest that? Obviously, we can't go with everything like Mr. Ramsey says, but like, how would you suggest they build their credit in a safe way as possible?
I'm just going to tell you what I tell my own children. Once they begin work, I do think it is responsible for them to have one credit card, which they use for specific expenses, that they know how much those expenses should be, that they track those expenses and make sure that they don't lose track of the expenses because it's going on a credit card and not being paid out of an envelope in cash. But there's no reason to give up points. When I hear people taking out 15 credit cards because they're getting points from here, that makes me very nervous. Are there people, I've seen people do it responsibly. Joseph's laughing. I don't know your background.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
I'm sorry.
Zach is the king of those things.
No, but I don't listen. I've seen people do it responsibly. I've seen people who have benefited from having multiple, but it makes me nervous unless somebody's got a really great track record. I don't want to see different expenses on different cards and things flying around. That makes me nervous. So I'm a believer in getting a credit card once you started working and building your credit, so that when you're ready to buy a house, if you're in good financial standing and you have jobs, you shouldn't have to use the one company that Dave Ramsey likes that doesn't need a credit score.
You're saying there's like a happy medium between Dan's deals and David Ramsey's.
Okay. Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, because I'd say, especially in our community, a lot of people are very invested in like their miles and their points and everything, and it's a very I think heavily you'll see a lot of people have a credit card for this airline because they fly on this route every so often. They've got a different one for grocery shopping because they know they're getting extra points on that. And
I know, and I work with people like that. And again, if somebody is responsible, and if somebody is financially comfortable, and if somebody is doing it in a responsible way where they have not incurred debt and they're paying off their debt, not their minimums, but all their debt free, and they have money in savings, and they're really doing it for the joy of the extras, I don't think that's a horrible thing. However, I would love to know the percentage of people with 5 or more credit cards who are debt free. That's what scares me. If somebody's got debt, don't tell me about your points. First, get yourself out of debt, and then we could talk about points.
Credit cards have to make money somehow, and then they're offering all these bonuses for a reason because they want people to use it. So I guess.
Listen, they do make money off of purchases. I do use a credit card, and they're making their 2% or whatever it is on every transaction I transact. But that's the only way they're making money off of me. So
yeah, but the general person, and then if you Chase make most of their money off people.
I always laugh at that when people sit with me and they give me that list of credit cards, and I Chase Freedom, and I always laugh. I'm like, Freedom, this guy's not free. He's got $15,000 on the first Chase card, and then there's the Sapphire, and then there's the it just gets very out of hand very quickly. So
listen, if he really wants the Freedom, he'll get the Freedom Ultimate card.